You're listening to Joyful Wedding Planning, your spot for de-stressing and relaxing while you plan your wedding. You might be thinking, is that even possible? Well, heck yeah, it is. I'm your host, Emily DeClue, founder of The Joy Factor, Weddings and Events, and I'm here to help you plan the wedding of your dreams joyfully. Whether you're a DIYer or a delegator, this podcast will help you find the joy factor as you plan your wedding. So you're a DIY bride and you're planning everything for your wedding, but you might not understand exactly how the logistics work for the whole thing. I mean, hey, you could hire the florist and be like, yeah, show up at this place at this time, maybe whatever. But if the florist isn't there before the other decorator and the other decorator hasn't brought the table settings and the caterer if everybody is moving all at the same time, but not together, it's going to be a little chaotic and a little bit overwhelming. So today, what I want to talk to you about is all of the different things that I cover with my DIY couples when they hire me as a day of coordinator, because I'm the person making sure that this vendor has that and this and everything is in its place before stuff goes down so that nobody's rushing around and getting flustered and overwhelmed and like, oh my God, I don't know where to put the cake because there's no cake table yet. We need to make sure that stuff's ready to go. And you might be working with somebody in your family, maybe in your bridal party. So I wanted to make this video to give you a sense of what are the different questions that you need to be asking yourself, what needs to be written down, how do you plan for transitions, all of that good stuff. So this is a big, long questionnaire. I also have a PDF that you can grab when you sign up for my email list. Is very easy to do that. And you can use this for putting the final finishing touches on absolutely everything. I would say get started with this at least 3 weeks out from your wedding. More than that, and stuff might still be kind of up in the air. So you could get started with it, but really start focusing in on it about 3 weeks away from your wedding. Oh, I forgot to introduce myself. Hi, I'm Emily DeClue. I'm the founder of the Joy Factor Wedding and Events. I work with DIY couples on their weddings here in Toronto, Ontario. And I am so excited to bring you more videos about planning your DIY wedding. I was a DIY bride myself, and I am an event planner of over 10 years. I don't even know how long, 13? It's been a while, and I'm so passionate about helping DIY couples realize their perfect days. I come in and I help on the day to do all of the coordination and make sure everything goes totally smooth. For some reason, last video I said smooth like peanut butter, and I feel like maybe I was just nervous, but now I'm not. Now I'm normal. This is normal. But I want to give you a sense of what it's going to be like to work with me, if you do decide to work with me. Anyway, today's video is about if you don't want to work with a coordinator, and I want to make sure that you are covered too, because this stuff is really, really important. So how does everything come together on your wedding day? How are you going to get to the venue? And does your cake need to be refrigerated? Does the florist know where to deliver the boutonnieres? Or does your bridal party actually know they need to be at the hotel the night before so you can all get ready at 6 a.m. in the bridal suite before you go down to the limo that's waiting for you at 10 a.m.? Oh my God. Yeah, there's a lot of details. That's why we write it down. I've talked to lots of different brides over the years, and one of the biggest questions that I get is well, how do we know that this is happening at the right time? And even as a guest at weddings, I can see where little transitional elements have been missed. One really good example is the venue coordinator didn't understand how to set up their audio equipment. So the music for the ceremony was really there was no treble. It was just all bass. And it was kind of a bummer, honestly, for the couple, because they were well, we were really envisioning this beautiful song to be playing, but all you could hear was oomps, oomps. It's not exactly what you want to be walking down the aisle to. Thankfully, we were able to fix that for them in their wedding video. So at least that will be in their memory forever, which is nice. Back to the point. The point is, little transitional elements can be easily overlooked or missed. And then your guests are kind of standing there wondering oh, what do we do now? And they're just hanging around and it's kind of awkward and uncomfortable. That's what we're trying to avoid when we go through all of this stuff. And I'm also going to note, not all of this is going to be relevant to your wedding. So start with what I'm giving you and then make your adjustments from there. Okay, let's start with the general things. I'm going to have to read off a list because there is no way in hell I can memorize all of this. Okay, where is your wedding? Time and date. That's important information. I know you know this, but does everybody else know this? And I would recommend writing this down in a document somewhere so it's easily printable and shareable with whatever vendor is going to need it, and you just have access to all of this information. So, when is your wedding? Time and date. Where is your wedding? Are there different locations? There might be a couple of different places that your vendors need to travel to, so it's important that they have that information. How many guests will you have? Will it be the same number of guests for the ceremony and the reception? Do you have a vendor list? Every single vendor with their email addresses and a phone number they can be contacted at. Who are the volunteers on the day who have different jobs? So that might be your bridal party, your mother-in-law, your own mother. It depends on who's being assigned to what, but we need to figure that out and we need to write it all down so that everybody has their own list of things that they're going to be doing and at what time that needs to be done. Day of payments. Very important to know because you're gonna need to give one person that job to hand over little envelopes of cash if that needs to happen, or somebody, either you or your husband or your dad, is gonna need to be responsible for either sending that e-transfer or paying that Visa bill. Okay, then we're gonna do the ceremony beat by beat. This is like time-stamped things. So bridesmaids arrive at 6:05 a.m. Hair and makeup arrives at 7 a.m. Donuts arrive at 4-minute intervals throughout the day. I don't know, maybe you really want donuts all day on your wedding. You gotta write it down. Then we're gonna go through the ceremony logistics. So, who's the officiant? Their contact info. What will the venue be taking care of? Will they do please take your seat and no phones recording announcements, that kind of stuff? What will you be responsible for at the ceremony venue? Who is on site that you need to coordinate with? Who will be bringing the paperwork on the day? So your marriage license application, your vows. Does your officiant have a plan to bring extra copies if needed? Or do you need to bring extra copies of these things? Who will have the rings? Are there any special props you will be bringing for them? Who's going to have them? What are they? And where will they be? And when do they need to be delivered to the ceremony area so that they can be used at the correct moment in time? I've seen it happen where props have gone missing and you just kind of have to carry on through the rest of the ceremony. What time is the photographer or videographer checking in? Do you have a photography and videography shot list ready to go that can be handed off to the photographer or videographer? Do we need to find a space at the ceremony venue for your first look photography if you're planning on doing that? What is the option for the ceremony music? Is there a musician? At what time are they checking in? Are there any other vendors at the ceremony that need to be allocated into this whole plan? When will you yourself be arriving to the venue? When will you be walking down the aisle? At what point will late guests be allowed to take their seats? Because you would probably want someone stationed at the door so no one's barreling down the aisle while the bride or groom is also currently walking down the aisle. You really don't want latecomers ruining that special moment, especially for photography, but also because it's really going to distract you. It's going to distract everybody else. That kind of stuff's very important to know. Making sure someone's stationed at the door, and then they can come in after, you're up at the front. Are there any gifts or tips that need to be handed off to anybody else at the ceremony, like the officiant? Sometimes people like to give the officiant a nice gift. Decor at the ceremony. Will it already be decorated, or do you need to take care of that in advance? At what time do you need to be at the venue to do that decoration, or does somebody else take care of that for you? And also signage, making sure that either the venue or yourself has very clear signs that say, this wedding is this way, with an arrow pointing that way. Washrooms, that way. People need signs. People need to know where they're going, because otherwise they kind of bumble around and then they stand there forever and then your wedding starts late because they didn't know where to go. Okay, maybe it's not just signage. People are like, yeah, they're catching up, they're having a fun time, but signage does play a pretty big role in making sure that you are getting people in the right place at the right time. Okay, let's talk about transitions between the ceremony and the reception. So what's happening in between? A lot of couples decide that they're going to do their photography between these two events, and then guests are sort of hanging around otherwise. It really, again, it's gonna depend on how you plan your day. Like my day, for example, we just did the ceremony and immediately following we had the reception in the exact same venue. But you might be planning a bus to take you from a chapel down to a restaurant. It really depends on what your whole plan is. So how will you be making sure that all of the people are getting on the bus and getting to the right places at the right time, and they're all accommodated for? So make sure you've written down who the bus company is, what the head count should be for people who are taking the bus so that before the bus leaves, you've got all of the people that you know you need to be taking. Maybe you even have a list of the people that should be taking the bus. That comes down to like your personal preference and like you know your friends and family best if they're gonna get on the bus or not, or pull a Home Alone or something silly like that. On the transportation and transitions element, I want to throw in accessibility for your guests. I really personally didn't think this through for my own wedding, and I chose a venue up a flight of stairs, and my grandma was really not able to get herself up the stairs on her own. So we really had to rely on family members to help her get up the stairs. She had also flown in that day from Vancouver to Toronto, and I guess the pressure of the plane really made it so that it felt like her knee was broken. It was like really bad swelling. I've had a similar experience on a plane too, so I totally get it. So she wasn't able to move her leg very well, and we had to find a mobility device at the last possible second, and it was like a holiday, and it was not perfect timing. I'm so lucky I have such wonderful friends that were able to like source a wheelchair walker for us at the last second. But this is something else to keep in mind too. If you have elderly family that may be traveling great distances, make sure that you have rented mobility devices just as backups, because you just never know. You can have them stationed at the venue or you can have them in somebody's car. Just make sure that you have that available. Just throwing it out there. And then wrap up for ceremony venue. So what needs to be taken down? If you're doing your own decor there, then you need to make sure that that's all taken down before you leave. Your ceremony venue might also be really strict with scheduling. So that might be like have your bridal party at the ready to take down any extra decor that you may have brought along with you, just in case you need to like rush out. Ideally, that's not happening because you're so smart and you've planned everything in advance. All right. Now we move to the reception. You've planned out how you and your new spouse are getting to the reception, and you've planned out how your friends and family and your bridal party are getting to the reception. Everybody knows where they need to be and at what time, so no more issues there. You've all arrived at the correct time. Now we need to just go through the beat by beat for the reception. When are guests coming in? Is there a cocktail hour? Are you arriving at the same time as your guests? Is there a grand presentation? Is there a dance number, perhaps? All of the different activities and little pieces and like cake cut, like all of that sort of stuff. So map out the timestamp for every single thing that happens at your reception. For your catering, make sure you've written down the name of the caterer, the phone number, a contact information, what they should be bringing, like what is the menu, have that written somewhere, because you want to make sure that what's being delivered is what you've paid for. Just in case, you never know. Will the catering team be setting up in advance? So do you need to have somebody go straight to your reception venue from the ceremony in order to make sure that the catering company can be let into the venue, or will the venue just let them in? Or maybe the venue themselves are doing the catering. Just basically make sure that the caterers have access to the venue when they need access to the venue. And if they need to bring any additional equipment for their cooking, like fridges or anything like that, because sometimes they bring that stuff along too. Now, speaking of setting up your reception venue, if you can get in the night before to set it all up, amazing. That's not always the case, and especially when you're working on a budget, maybe you only have like a couple of hours between here and now to make that happen. So who can you pull in on your volunteer team to make sure that you have all of the decor set up, your welcome table, your gift table, like all of those sorts of things? Who can you pull in to make sure that all of that is set up in advance so that you're not like rolling in, trying to do your grand entrance and there's just like random boxes and tablecloths sitting around? You don't necessarily want that. So we've talked about the beat by beat for the reception. So what are the different activities that are going to be happening? Like, is a DJ going to be running the whole thing? Is there an MC that's going to be keeping track of the night and like making sure that we're announcing different things at different times, like the first dance, or in my case, my husband and I made our first film together instead of a first dance. It was a fun thing to do. Or how about speeches and toasts? Who's going to be doing them when? Any other special dances or performances? Your cake cutting. I love cake. I feel like cake is the best part of all weddings ever. Okay, maybe not, but yeah, I love cake a lot. In my past life, I was a pastry chef, and My world was very much about cake. Finally, for your reception venue, when you're doing the wrap up and everything, who's gonna be leading this? Put somebody in charge of leading this specific element, okay? Is there a plan for gifts and cards to get back home with you or somebody else so that they're kept safe? Is there any decor that needs to be organized to take home? Is there any food that needs to be organized to take home? I catered my own wedding, and I, instead of like a traditional party favor, I gave people takeout containers so that they could take all of the extra food home. And there was like a heck of a lot of extra food, actually, when I think about it. Anyway, make sure there's a plan for all of that stuff to get home safely that you don't have to worry about so much, so that you're just like enjoying yourself. And then finally, we talk about backup plans. So identifying any situation where the person who's helping you with all of this stuff on the day should be finding you, should be coming to find you to like make a decision on something. And that could be like as small as, where do you want your flowers to go after you're done with the ceremony, to as big as, your mothers are fighting, what do we do? But you can make that decision in advance, so it's like, I really don't care if our mothers are fighting. I'm over here having a good time. Or like, I really need to know where my flowers are, okay? So make sure that they're at the head table and they're ready and they're right here so I can smell them all night. These are gonna come down to your personal preferences. If anything's happening outdoors, what are the backup plans for that? So like if your photography is happening outdoors and there's a lot of unexpected snow on an October fresh fall day, kind of mixing things up a little bit. Do you have a blanket or something you can wear over top of a gown to make sure that you're staying warm for your photos, like still showing off your dress? Do you have extra backup umbrellas? Are you okay to do your ceremony in the rain? You know, like those kinds of things. Like, how are you making sure that everything is accounted for, especially with outdoor stuff? A really big important one is, if key people are running late, at what point do we move forward with the program? Because as I mentioned before, some ceremonies, and especially officiants, like they're really tight on schedule because they book people in back to back to back to back to back, right? Because that's just the nature of their business. So at what point do we say, okay, if mother-in-law and father-in-law are stuck in traffic from the airport, they're trying their best to get here, but they're probably not going to be here for another 30 minutes, but you only have like 20 minutes left. Can we move forward with the ceremony? Or are we just gonna say, hey, that was nice, we'll do like a city hall ceremony later, and this can just be sort of like a performative one if you want to do that. And then also make sure that you know what the venue's policy is on this, or your officiant's policy. Like, if people are running late, how much grace time will they give you? Okay, so that's like a lot of info, but I'm telling you, like, if you can get this stuff sorted out like at least 3 weeks in advance of your wedding, you're gonna be so relaxed. It's so calm. Like, everything's gonna feel so much better, and things will shift. Let me tell you, things are gonna move around a little bit, but that's okay, because that's just sort of the nature of weddings and events. If you have this stuff written down though, you could just make tiny little adjustments in your document and you'll see like, okay, I have a plan for this. This is all backed up. This is ready to go. And everybody knows what has to happen at what time. And I feel good. I feel calm. I feel so happy about my wedding. If you found this video useful, I would be so grateful if you dropped a comment below letting me know what you found useful. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube, follow me wherever you get your podcasts. I'm on social media as well. Drop the handles below. And if you have questions or topic ideas you'd like me to cover, you can email me at emily@joyfactorweddings.com. I would love to hear from you. And again, you can download this big whole list of questions, this PDF I've made for you. All you have to do is sign up for my email list for that. I've got a link below for you for that as well. Thank you so much for being here, and until next time, keep it joyful.
Thanks for listening to Joyful Wedding Planning. I hope you got something out of this episode, and hey, if you did, leave me a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. It helps me to find more listeners just like you, so that we can take all the stress out of wedding planning and go from panic to joy-filled moments. Need help to plan your wedding? Book a call with me at joyfactorweddings.com. I can't wait to help you plan the wedding of your dreams. This podcast was produced by The Ultimate Creative. Learn more about producing your own podcast at theultimatecreative.com.